Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well and you're having a super day. Today we're going to talk about tomato gravy, and it's not the kind of gravy your Nona made on Sunday afternoon, where she had a big pot of tomatoes stewing on the stove and threw in some peppers and onions and meatballs and ribs and all kinds of good things, maybe even chicken. It's not like that at all, sorry. Today we're going to make a very simple tomato gravy. I just got a saute pan going with about 2 tablespoons of butter. You can use margarine. If you do use oil, the taste is going to be a bit different and the texture will be different. The aim here is trying to make like a bechamel sauce, except we're not using any milk. This recipe came about basically because my parents didn't have any money when they first immigrated to Canada. My father was working in a bush camp, my mother was doing cleaning jobs, they had 2 kids to feed, and this tomato gravy with some noodles was it, man. Add some boiled eggs now and then, and that was dinner. My mother made it so often that anytime my father saw tomato sauce someplace, he was already getting the heaves. Anyway, I just added a half an onion chopped up. It doesn't have to be fine or anything. The goal here is to get the onion softened, get it slightly brown around the edges, and impart the flavor into the butter that I just melted. It's going to take a few moments. You're going to notice that the camera steams up every now and then. For some reason, I have the camera situated so that it's right above the pan, and all the steam from the onion goes right up to it, of course, nowhere else but there. So now the onions are soft, and they're starting to turn a little brown around the edges, caramelizing. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of flour. You need to stir this as you add it and keep stirring, because it's very likely to scorch if you just leave it there, or you'll get a big lump. So keep it moving around. The idea here is to cook the starch out of the flour so that it opens up and accepts all the liquid that we're going to give it. I don't know if you've ever had a sauce or a gravy where it just tastes grainy. That's because the cook there didn't cook the starch out of the flour. And that's what happens to the sauce after. It's just not very appetizing. You want a nice, smooth, creamy kind of sauce, even though we're not adding any cream or milk. Once the flour has a chance to cook out, we're going to add 2 cups of water. I think I'm a bit of ahead of myself here, but, oh, there we go. Once you add the water, you need to keep stirring, and I mean keep stirring. Don't leave the pan going and walk away and answer a phone call from your girlfriend. Keep stirring. Don't walk away. Don't talk to the kids. Don't do anything. If you leave it and walk away, the starch is going to congeal on the very bottom of the pan. And what you're going to get is pudding with water on top. So keep stirring. See, now I walked away, and I'm lucky that it didn't congeal on me. I think I was trying to get some other things to put into the pan. Keep the heat on about medium-high so that it always comes back to a boiling point. It needs to boil in order to get to its full thickening potential. The starch will start blowing up and absorbing all the water. You can see it bubbling in the middle of the pan, and the texture of the sauce is starting to change. You guys ever made bechamel sauce at home? You know, you start the same way with a roux with a fat and flour, and then you add maybe cream or milk, cheese, tomato, all kinds of things to make a nice sauce. I've just added some salt and pepper. Now do that to taste. I suggest that you hang off on the salt a bit because you are going to add some cheese at the very end and you might make it too salty. Another thing that we're going to add here is 2 or 3 drops of Maggi. If you're familiar with German cooking, you know that Maggi is part of everything. If you don't have Maggi, a couple of drops of Worcester sauce or a couple of drops of soya sauce, but it will change the taste of this sauce, just so you know, but you can certainly experiment. I've now just added a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. I suggest you use plain. The ones with like garlic and all that kind of make it too pungent sometimes, but you can certainly experiment with that. I'm being a bit of a purist here and doing it exactly as my mother made, and she wasn't into any kind of fancy thing. Just an onion, give me a tomato paste, and away we go. I mean, you could also change it up, and instead of adding the water, you could add chicken stock. That would also be a nice change. You could saute some mushrooms and add that to this. I've also made really little tiny meatballs, like the Swedish meatballs, and thrown them in this sauce and cooked them. They're also really good. I mean, this tomato sauce is versatile. It's not like any kind of Italian sauce at all. My sauce was getting a bit thick here, so I added just a little bit more water to thin it down. As you know, once some flour and water start cooking, they get thicker and thicker and thicker as the water comes to a boil. So you might need to adjust the water a little bit a few times just to get it to the right consistency that you want. This is a good time if you want to check the seasoning and maybe add a little bit more pepper or a little bit more salt, whatever you like at this point. A little garlic is good too, but not in my mother's recipe, so you won't see it here. Now that the sauce is done, we're going to plate it up with some German noodles. My mother never made spaghetti with this. In fact, I don't remember ever seeing a box of spaghetti in the house. It was always German noodles, German egg noodles. You can buy these just about any store these days. In fact, I was just thinking that there was never even Kraft dinner in our house. It was like almost forbidden. My mother never once made Kraft dinner. I had to go to my friend's house to get it if I wanted some. So I've added a few spoons of the tomato gravy. I'm going to sprinkle over some Parmesan cheese. And for protein, I'm going to add a boiled egg. This was what my mother did to make this more nutritious. And so I've left it the way it is, so that you would see the original recipe. I've got the plate done, and I put it on a tray so you can come and join me for dinner. Let's sit down and have a chat and make your day right again. Thanks for joining me.